First off, 311 does not need the plur familia to come defend their honor. They're gonna be fine, regardless what an unknown indie musician says about them on YouTube. They won't see this and wouldn't take my opinion too seriously anyway, and you shouldn't either. This one is a couple of weeks late because I really wanted to give it every opportunity possible to win me over. I listened to it while I played video games, while I worked out, while I was driving, everything, and no matter what I try, no matter how much leeway I give, I keep coming to the same conclusion. I really like the singles and the closer and a few moments elsewhere, but this album feels like a set of demos. It doesn't feel like this is a band. Half of the album feels like Nick and a few outside co-writers made another Nick Hexum album and hired the other guys from 311 to play and sing on it. It also lacks cohesion, but that's not really new. The last two albums, despite some solid tracks, have both felt like playlists of ideas rather than a cohesive album. Mosaic suffers significantly less from this if you remove the Feldman tracks, but Voyager was a mixed bag even without Feldman, not to mention the whole heist crossfire thing. It wasn't bad, but it was definitely underbaked, which is a sentiment shared by Peanut. The difference is that, for better or worse, the majority of the previous albums were allegedly composed by 311. Full Bloom features 6 producers and only a handful of songs that were created exclusively by members of 311, including Scotch, and how could you not include Scotch? To give the proper credit, there's no John Feldman, so thank the universe for that. This album boasts an extremely strong trio of singles. You're gonna get it as a tried and true blend of a few Mosaic gems like Too Late, Heyo, and One and the Same, and it's fucking awesome. Any song with heavy guitar being the hook is fine by me. Need Somebody features an extremely underbaked rap from Essay, which almost feels like it was written a minute before it was recorded, but the rest of the song is stellar, and Full Bloom is fucking incredible. I love the odd time signatures in the chorus, and nothing overstays its welcome, and best of all, it sounds like 311. Listen to this track again and pay specific attention to the bass. More on that in a second. Braver is a badass track, and there are solid moments musically throughout the rest of the album, but the lyrics and melodies do not match the quality of the instrumentation. This will be a great listen if and when an instrumental version drops like it did with Voyager. Before I switch to the more critical side of my opinion, particular praise must be given to the mix. This album sounds really good overall. Particular praise to Peanut, who has some amazing bass work on this one and is featured prominently throughout in the mix. The drums and guitars sound good, there's nothing wrong with them, but Peanut is the standout in my opinion, and I'm very happy about that. When you have someone who can play like him, he needs to be front and center, and I often feel like he's buried in the mix, which is definitely not a problem here. The problem is that the album lacks any flow once you get out of the singles, and most of the lyrics feel very first draft. Lyrically, Friend sounds like it would be featured in a montage on a Nickelodeon show. Mountaintop has some really cool instrumental sections, but features vague lyrics about how things are now and how they were better back in the day, with this weird out-of-place "to the mountaintop, I don't stop," which has nothing to do with the rest of the chorus and just comes crashing in out of nowhere. It sounds okay, but it doesn't fit. The song is a mess. New Heights is just a less catchy Island Sun. Days Go By is cool musically, but Essay literally fucking says that's facts. An album after these bars is gold and real talk and vibin'. It's about as cheesy as when he was singing into a direct TV remote on an officially released music video. Yes, this actually happened. That corny stuff was cool when it felt authentic, and 311 has always had a layer of cheesiness to the rap, which I love by the way, but there's something weird about it here. Persimmon is excellent musically and would be vastly superior as an instrumental, and is the shining example of what I had previously stated about first draft lyrics. All You've Seen is pretty good. It's probably the catchiest, most sing-songy on the album, but I can't stop thinking about Four Non-Blondes when I hear it. It's pretty on the nose, similar to the breakdown in Places That the Mind Goes being extremely similar to the chorus in I'm Yours by Jason Mraz. I already said Braver rocks. This is a very simple song, but you will literally never hear me complain about getting to hear just Chad and Peanut together like you do on this one. This is Essay's best rapping in years and has a very catchy chorus. One of my favorite things 311 can do is when Essay takes the lead and Nick is the one in the background harmonizing, and this is one of the strongest examples of that. I certainly wouldn't complain if the track was a little longer, but that's just because I fucking love it. I don't think it's too short or there's anything wrong with it the way it is. Initially, my poor reception of this album was fueled by a misunderstanding of what Nick meant when he said this is 311 on steroids around the time they dropped a pretty heavy single. I took some time and revisited this album under various sets of circumstances, and it still hasn't clicked for me. I would give this a 5 out of 10. Definitely not what I or many other fans expected after 5 years, longest gap in the band's career, and, again, comments about steroids after dropping a heavy song. Social media comment sections are more negative than they've ever been in terms of reception to new 311 music, so I'm not alone here. This also marks a drastic drop in chart performance. Voyager had snapped a streak of 10 consecutive top 10 albums on the Billboard charts, and Full Bloom didn't even hit the top 100. Unless I'm looking at the wrong chart, and at that point I don't care. Is it the worst album with the 311 logo on it? You be the judge, but it doesn't feel like a 311 album. There's clear division inside the band based on which political cult is followed by which member. I'm not sure how you can quantify this, but you definitely feel the division in the band. There's magic in something like Stereolithic and Mosaic, but the last two just haven't had it. But at the end of the day, as long as the guys are happy with it, that's all that matters. I don't even like everything I've created, musically or on YouTube, so it's not a problem if a band makes an album I don't vibe with. They don't owe me anything, but that's twofold. I don't have to pretend that I like it, and I don't think I'm going to stay on the bandwagon long enough to see if I'll be fooled a third time. For me personally, it was a good run, and the classic albums will always mean a lot to me, but this is likely where I hop off and sporadically check for news. I've been pretty hardcore about the guys since 2004, but I don't feel the same about the new stuff, and that's okay. The band can do whatever the hell they want, they've earned it, and them doing their own thing is why they're successful and why we love them. It's also worth noting that none of us are as young as we were back in the day. Obviously, nostalgia goggles are a real thing, but I hope that I was able to present a better case than simply not liking it because it's new. That's really not a problem I have. Too Late was a very recent song in terms of their discography, and that's one of my favorites. I'm completely open to new ideas, that's not the problem. In my opinion, 311 was successful because they didn't follow trends. They did something cool on their own and people loved it, so when these guys start trying to chase trends, it just doesn't work. It feels hollow, it feels weird. It almost feels like some old person trying too hard to be young, like that Steve Buscemi meme. I know they'll never see this, but thanks for giving me a great 20 years, and I hope that wherever you go, it works out. I will always be indebted to you musically, but Full Bloom just ain't it. Thank you for watching.